Hey, what is going on, guys? It's SMEB Reviews. No, it's Noah. Um, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite albums from quarter three. I believe that quarter three is an amazing month for music, or a couple months, July through September. I think it's been such an incredible time for music. So many great things. I feel like every week had amazing stuff coming out. So this list isn't going to be ordered or anything. This is just in the order that I heard them. Basically, I wanted you guys to know what was on my short list before I make the top 10. That's the idea with these videos. This is the short list. Then I'll cut them down and actually make a top 10 at the end of the year. So these are in order that I've heard them and mainly that they came out. So don't expect these to be ranked in any way. So we're going to start with the Midnight. The Midnight released, I don't even know what number album it is, but Monsters. They are a 80s synthwave band, would be the best way that I would describe it. They're very 80s down to their aesthetic and sound. They do a lot of really solid synthwave stuff that I really do recommend, and I think that a lot of people would like, especially if you like that 80s synthy stuff. It's one of those albums that it's what I like. Of course, I'm going to like it. Next is Alone in a Boy Band by Boy Band. Boy Band is I don't remember his name, but he is a producer mainly, and he decided to do a project, and so he created Boy Band, and it is this blend of hip hop and pop punk that works really well. He has done some really incredible stuff. This album has some really catchy songs on it. Ironically, one of my favorite tracks, Get Home Safely, is not on the album, but he honestly, this is a really fun album that merges two genres really effectively, because I've seen a lot of artists try to do this, but I would say that Boy Band did it in the most successful way that I've seen. Next up, we have the Aces, Under My Influence. I would say that this is a pop album. I'm terrible with genres, but I would guess that the best way to describe it is a pop album. They are all incredibly talented. This album has, again, it's a lot of catchy songs. Los Angeles, that's one of those songs that I want to throw out there. The Aces are incredibly talented. I did not listen to their first album, and I don't remember it catching my attention, but this one just drew my attention, and I haven't been able to let go of it, and I really recommend this thing, as I do all of these. Next up is 30% off the EP from Best Friends, which is composed of the lead singer of Joywave and I believe the lead singer of Sir Sly. I know it's from Sir Sly, I just don't know if he's the singer. But it's a weird project. It's very similar to Joywave, so if you guys like Joywave, it's very similar. There's a couple, it's only a 4-song EP, and Pressure Cookin', one of the tracks, is definitely my least favorite. But the other 3 are really solid, so much so that it's easy to ignore Pressure Cookin'. I don't imagine that this will actually be on my list. There's so many amazing things that this would not have a place, but it's a Joywave release that I really do like, and I think that's really solid. But unfortunately, Joywave did this better earlier in this year. Next, we have I Can Feel You Forgetting Me by Neon Trees, and I know a lot of people actually really didn't like this album. I feel like the reviews were pretty mixed, but usually it was just an okay album by a lot of people. But I'd argue that this is the band's best album, except for maybe Pop Psychology. I mean, the title alone, I Can Feel You Forgetting Me, is such a heart-wrenching lyric that I absolutely love. And the whole album is genuinely... It's very personal, yet being incredibly accessible and pop-driven. It's definitely still in the indie rock vein, but I think that it's one of those albums that one of the albums I think is going to stick with me the most. It's not to say that it's going to be the one that I think is the best album of the year, but one of the albums that I think I will just continue to dive into over and over, as it's just such an incredibly fun and catchy yet incredibly sad album that I loved. Simple as that. Next up is an album that a ton of people listen to, I know, Taylor Swift's Folklore. This album is definitely the best album in her catalog. I can say that with a definitive belief that nothing she will ever make will surpass this. It's instead of her typical pop or pop country kind of sound, she went indie folk, kind of, and it worked. I don't know how it worked, but she did an incredible job with this thing. The atmosphere and the tone of this album, it's so easy to just get caught up in this world and just putting on headphones and zoning out to this album. It just has a atmosphere to it, something that makes it so that once you start it, you just can't put it down. It's definitely not an album I'd ever recommend just choosing songs. No, this is an experience that I feel like people need to listen to all the way through. And I know Alyssa, whenever she sees this video or if she hears me inside, will not agree with me and not be happy that this is on here. But, and honestly, I understand her complaints with Taylor Swift, but this album gets a little bit of a pass. It has to. It's that good. The Last Great American Dynasty, if I was to choose a track out of an album that I'd prefer you all just listen to the whole album, it would be The Last Great American Dynasty. Next up, I have Washed Out's Purple Noon. Washed Out's a chill wave artist, and it's instrumental with a little bit of lyrics, a lot of synth, and it's good. I like to turn on this kind of music to do homework and stuff, though not to say that it's something that is only good passively. It's very good just as an album. I think it was a really solid album. I doubt anyone cares that much about this album, as it just doesn't turn a lot of heads, but it's an album that I genuinely did enjoy, and I find myself just getting lost in it. This is just like Taylor Swift's album. It's the world that the band creates, and it works really well. Next up, we have Hey Steve. Guru Steve is the name of the EP. This is the band that I've mentioned before that was called Steve, was called Republican Hair, and is now Hey Steve. They changed their name too many times, and I'm not going to explain why. Basically, it was for accessibility. But this EP is very good. I think it's better than the other EP that was on my quarter 2, maybe quarter 1. I can't remember when it came out. It's like a post-punk kind of sound. That's kind of what they go for. The band talks a lot about societal issues, and it's like a satire band, I guess would be the best way that I can describe it. But yeah, so post-punk satire, it's funny, it's good. Like I said, I might say that this is one of their better releases. They have a lot of really great stuff, and I find them, honestly, they're one of my favorite bands anymore, after I accidentally saw them in concert. But so good, so absolutely good. Again, shorter EP, but the stuff that they put out, just usually so quality. Next up is the Lemon Twigs, songs for the general public. I know a lot of people criticize the Lemon Twigs for being a little non-innovative, because they take a lot from older music, a lot from 70s, particularly 70s rock / pop, and don't innovate on it. Kind of like how Greta Van Fleet was criticized for just doing Led Zeppelin, but worse. But I don't quite agree. They have their own sound. They're not innovative, I can admit that, but they have their own sound and their own identity that works for them, and I think that it's a good sound. It's not the best. It's not the best of this nostalgia pandering kind of music, but it feels genuine at least, and I do genuinely like it. Again, this is probably one that I don't see actually making the list proper, but definitely one that deserved a shout out. Next up is In a Dream, the EP by Troye Sivan. So many great, it's 5 songs, one of them's like basically an instrumental, it's just an interlude. But songs like Easy, Take Yourself Home, and then the title track are super catchy. Unfortunately, they're dragged down by songs like Stud and Rager Teenager, which are the only other 2 songs. But the 3 songs that work well. Those 3 that I named elevate this to a place that deserves talking about, even though half the track listing is uninteresting. It's a genuinely good album. Easy, one of the singles for the album, Alyssa will agree with me, is incredible. It's so catchy and a genuinely great song. Next up is The Killers, Imploding the Mirage. I know everyone, probably everyone's heard it. It's a heartland rock version of The Killers, more than they've ever been before, even though they've always drawn on Bruce Springsteen. This one especially does. But it's a genuinely good album. I feel like they've sometimes lost their footing and have made missteps. But this album does not feel like a misstep by any means. I'd still say that I like probably like Sam's Town a little bit better than this, but it's a genuinely really good product from the band. One that I really enjoyed, of course, because it's right up my alley, but it's good. It transcends just the fact that I like the genre, as do all of these. Next up is Heaps. What is Heaps? This is something that Ryan at True North Reviews showed me. I don't even know how I describe it. Kind of post-punky. Good. It's really good. It's one of those albums that I look at and I think that I didn't like it that much, and I hear it and I go, no, just kidding. It's actually really good. So I don't have a lot to say about it right now, because right now I think it's okay. But I know that the second I put it on, which I will do after this, is going to be good. So if this part's still in the video, it means that I still found it good. Next up, Declan McKenna's Zeros. I've never paid attention to Declan McKenna. I honestly thought I didn't really like him that much. I thought he was fine, but I didn't care enough. This album may definitely change my mind. Key to Life on Earth came out, and from that second I was hooked. And I was so looking forward to this album. It came out and it blew me away. Such a great pop album. I highly recommend it. I've got super into him since, and this album is so amazing. It is a really great album. Tons of really catchy stuff, and he is just an incredible vocalist and songwriter. Two left. We've got a really small artist that I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her name. Caro, Caro. She is basically a singer-songwriter, but she has some really heartfelt, emotional stuff. Her EP, The Longest Years Part 1, is really beautiful. It's a beautiful listen, and she is a small artist and absolutely deserves more attention than she's gotten. I don't know how I found her, but very good. Very good singer-songwriter, emotional, beautiful. Last one is the surprise album from Fleet Foxes. I don't know how I've never listened to Fleet Foxes before this album, but now that I've listened to it, I love it. It's a very atmospheric album, very nostalgic, sentimental. I don't know why I avoided them so long. It was a mistake, because this album's great. Can I Believe You? Definitely my favorite song of the album. It's just so catchy, so good. I know a lot of the songs I've talked about, I just keep calling them catchy, but they are all genuinely substantial and great. The catchiness is just an added bonus. But that's the end. That's my list. And I appreciate you guys watching. Again, these are all the ones that I found worthwhile, all the ones that I thought were worth a shout out, and I really do like all of these. I highly recommend any of them. If anyone wants to ask me for a place of where to start with most of them, I'm happy to provide that. But overall, I just hope you find something in here that you like. Lots of really great stuff. Incredible quarter for me, and honestly, if I was to just guess, I'd say half of my top 10 will probably come from the quarter we just had. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if any of these are on your list or what is on yours. I'll be fascinated to know. And besides that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.